What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you had a great weekend. In this video, I want to talk about Cleanspark. We do have earnings coming up. We also have a mining update coming up. So we're going to go over those catalysts. We're also going to talk about Cleanspark's chart. I haven't looked at it in a little while. We're also going to look at Bitcoin, and we have some Mt. Gox news. So let's get started, guys. If you get something useful out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Definitely keeps me going. Also, if you're interested, there's some links down below for some free stocks and cryptos, and let's get started. Now, here's something I didn't mention in the intro. I mentioned it in my last video, but there's a little more detail here. Cantor Fitzgerald's CEO announces a $2 billion Bitcoin financing business, and this was mentioned at the Bitcoin conference. Now, this financing business will be started out with $2 billion worth of financing for Bitcoin and $2 billion tranches moving forward, so an additional $2 billion every time they decide. The CEO also said Bitcoin should trade the same as gold everywhere in the world, without exception and without limitation. Continuing on, we're going to welcome Bitcoin into the financing family of the global financial markets, and Cantor Fitzgerald is going to be your sponsor. We will build the best platform for financing Bitcoin, and we will work with the best custodians. We are committed to your ecosystem of Bitcoin. They see the money, they see the transaction fees, and they see the dollar signs in their eyes. And this will, of course, contribute to adoption. It's not just that these big CEOs see Bitcoin as the future. Maybe that's part of it, but it's also that they see the fees, the transaction fees. Perhaps Cantor Fitzgerald CEO does see the orange light. Lutnick, which is the CEO, disclosed that he himself owns Bitcoin and that Cantor Fitzgerald owns a shed load of Bitcoin. You know the word. Being a fan of Bitcoin alongside all of its partners. Now, this is an older article, but it looks like there were some updates made. The thing here is there's no dates, but you can add up the amount, and it looks like most of the Bitcoin has been transferred. There's a Bitcoin wallet known to be associated with Mt. Gox that transferred nearly 42,500 Bitcoin, or 2.7 billion. They also made another transaction moving 44,000 Bitcoin, that shouldn't be a dollar sign, worth 2.8 billion to its cold wallet. And then they made another heavy transaction with another 3.1 billion to an unlabeled address. Now, there's this bullish article by Tom Lee, and he mentions Mt. Gox as well. He also says Bitcoin can go to over 100,000 once the Mt. Gox saga has been resolved. And he says if Bitcoin can hold steady amid the ongoing Mt. Gox distribution, Lee says that a Fed rate cut could be a massive catalyst to trigger the next big leg up for Bitcoin. Mt. Gox is finally being resolved. That's really been one of the biggest expected overhangs since the original hack. And so when the distribution, which is in July, we're almost out of July, when that's behind us and markets see that there hasn't been a cataclysm, I think that's going to be a case for why Bitcoin does really well in the second half of the year. So, the thing is, the market is always forwards looking. And in my opinion, Bitcoin's recent drop pretty much priced in the Mt. Gox repayments. Of course, we can have some additional selling pressure as there will be crypto on the market that wasn't previously there. That was basically locked up if people decide to sell. The market already has likely priced this in. We've lost billions and billions of dollars in market cap on Bitcoin over potentially only like $5 billion worth of selling maybe. It's sort of like ripping a band-aid off. You want to just rip it off, get it over with. You don't want to slowly pull it off. It hurts more like that. What I want to see is this Mt. Gox saga come to an end. The creditors get paid out, and this can be water under the bridge. I do think the market is slowly moving past it, and I do think that the short-term bottom is in, but we'll get to the charts on Bitcoin in a second. Let's go over some Cleanspark news. Now, we're obviously going to get our next Bitcoin mining update from Cleanspark within a couple days. What I want to see for their July mining update is I want to see an increase in Bitcoin mined from 445. Let's see an increase over that. I also want to see that they are hodling the Bitcoin. Their last update was they have 6,591 Bitcoin. It would be fantastic to see them right around, 7,000, finally crack 7,000 or get close, which is very possible. In June, they did sell 8 Bitcoin. If we can see something similar, maybe they sell a couple. Compared to the hundreds that they mine, selling 8 is no big deal. The big focus is hodling. I do believe the miner capitulation is basically complete. As Bitcoin moves higher in price, there will be a lot of hype with the Bitcoin miners as they start seeing profitability again. They're not there right now. What they do expect is to flip to unprofitable very briefly. Keep in mind that the halving took effect a few months ago, and this is the first quarter reflecting it. They're expecting a small loss in EPS. They are expecting a small decrease in revenue, nearly $111 million expected in revenue. Last quarter, they reported almost 112 million. You'll notice across all the miners that they are expecting a dip in revenue. I think there's like 1 or 2 that expect an increase. Maybe Iron is one of them, but this is no big deal. This is all because of the halving. What do we normally see from Cleanspark? We see massive revenue growth. Like I showed you, the last quarter was $112 million in revenue. The quarter before that was 73 million. The quarter before that was 52 million. Quarter before that, 45. These guys have had some of the most consistent, fast-growing revenue of any Bitcoin miner. And the fact that from pre-rewards to post-rewards, they're only expecting a $1 million decrease in revenue, that shows that they have increased their hash rate dramatically to make up for the halving taking half the rewards from the miners. Now looking over at chart, it looks like we are really setting up for a big move coming up to earnings. The chart has just been consolidating for the longest time. Of course, they had the dilution announcement that pulled things back. And before that, they had that just blow off earnings, a huge gap, breakaway gap. I still doubt it is going to fill. But yeah, the chart is basically setting up perfectly for earnings. If earnings comes in horrible, most specifically forward guidance is bad, I think we can drop. I think we can break this pattern. But it's a matter of a really bad earnings. If they come out with a decent earnings, if we get some kind of a shining light at the end of the tunnel, if we get a good forward guidance perhaps, I think we will use this as a bouncing off point, and we will in short time break our previous resistances, the psychological 20, then comes 21, then comes roughly 25. But Cleanspark has had some of the fastest growing revenue of any Bitcoin miner out there. Last cycle, they were topping out at like $42 million in revenue per quarter, and they are doing more than double that now in this cycle, and they are going to see a very consistent profitability versus last cycle. Last cycle, they saw, I believe, one profitable quarter. Let's go back and check. They did report one profitable gap and non-gap quarter. And to think that we've already reported 2 quarters this cycle, this early in the cycle, I do think the Bitcoin miners are really going to impress us and really going to surprise us. But it is a matter of Bitcoin getting back into the 70,000s and above. It is a matter of these miners getting back to profitability. Right now, the market's a bit fearful. We just got through the halving. Look at it like if it was gold, you know, if they were mining gold and then suddenly your rewards get cut in half, you're mining like half the gold you were previously mining, your company would take a big hit for something like that. And with the Bitcoin miners, it's no different. But Bitcoin will continue appreciating in price throughout the rest of this cycle, and we will see these Bitcoin miners posting profitability. We will see the hype draw in. And some of these miners have seen some great runs already. You know, Cleanspark was under a $2 stock in the bear market. It ran into the 20s. I mean, it's been a great cycle so far. But I do think this is just the beginning. I don't think this is the max FOMO, max euphoria. But you know, as we get towards 2025, as we get running, as we have these crazy green days, you definitely want to consider selling some covered calls, trimming your positions, especially as they run up and become a larger percentage of your portfolio. As these run up, remember they are volatile. There will be big run-ups and there will be big pullbacks as well. Now looking at Bitcoin, I still see this ascending channel filling out. We're actually looking at a bearish divergence right now. You see the RSI lower highs, but you're seeing higher highs on the chart. There you go. Boom, boom. And generally though, we are going to fill, in my opinion, this ascending channel still. So we could definitely come down, retest 65 or so, give or take. Maybe we have a quick flash crash down to 63. But either way, I do think we are going to fill this ascending channel until we work towards our roughly 71,000 resistance. Of course, the psychological 70, which we have got so close to testing here the last couple of days. I do think Bitcoin is working on a big move up, but perhaps in the short term with Mt. Gox and everything else going on, we see a little bit of a pullback, a little bit of a retracement, and that's perfectly fine. Let this pattern continue filling out. Let the weak hands get shaken out on this little pullback here. Watch retail suddenly get very bearish on a pullback to 64, 65,000 if it does happen. It does look like we're finding resistance on this ascending trend line. It does look like the market is still respecting this trend, so keep an eye on it. Hopefully you guys got something useful out of this video. How are you feeling about Bitcoin? Do you think we're going to see much higher prices by the end of the year? And do you think it's possible that we see an $80,000 Bitcoin by August or in August at some point? I think we'll be pleasantly surprised over the next month to 2 months where Bitcoin goes. If we follow the last cycles, typically right now is the time. Oh, and also let me know how you're feeling about Cleanspark. Do you think their Bitcoin mining update is going to come out good, bad? One thing I failed to mention to you guys that I forgot to mention was in their last mining update, they did add that they are going to be increasing their hash rate, getting some machines going. So hopefully we do see that hash rate increase, and obviously that would mean an increase in Bitcoin mined for the month. But let me know what you guys think about Cleanspark. What do you think about their upcoming Bitcoin mining update? And what do you think about upcoming earnings? I do think the market is keeping Cleanspark down until that catalyst. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.